everyone. So today I thought I would talk about the GRE's grad school, getting into grad school. It is a very scary, kind of nerve-wracking topic that a lot of people in their senior year of undergrad are thinking about. So I thought I would talk to you guys about kind of my experience, at least how I got into grad school, and some of the tips and things that I did to get me to where I am. I know a lot of people have been wondering this, and I actually get this question a lot.
Caught in an action, I can't rewind on. And in my head, I'm screaming, but out of my mind, I'm still too young to feel this way.
So if you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe and join me. I am a 23-year-old studying to be a speech language pathologist in grad school right now, and I live in Massachusetts. So first, let's talk about the GREs. So if you're applying to graduate school, the first thing that you need to do is take the GREs. The GREs are essentially similar to the SATs, where you have to take them to get into college. You have to take the GREs to get into graduate school. The question then becomes, okay, what do you have to get on the GREs to get into grad school? Well, there's not a distinct set score that you have to get, but there is kind of a score you should aim for, I guess. So the GREs are broken up into verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and your written score. The verbal reasoning score I like to think of as the English test, and then the quantitative score is like the math test or the math portion. And then the writing score is you kind of write a little essay type thing, and that's your writing score. So on average, a lot of people get a 4-ish. That's at least what you want to aim for in terms of the writing scores, what I've found. Overall, the common denominator is you want to get around a 300 total score combined with the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning. So at least around a 150 for each is the consensus. Do you have to get a 150? Well, I guess it boils down to what school you're trying to get into. Obviously, some of the higher rated schools and private schools and Ivy League schools are gonna want those really higher scores, those really high GPAs. But can you get into grad school with not so great GRE scores? Yes, you can. I personally did not get the best GRE scores, but I didn't get the worst. I basically was on average. My biggest tip for the GREs though is to study as hard as you possibly can and take it once. I went to every meeting that was about the GREs in my undergrad that was with the people who were on the grad school committee. So I was able to get firsthand information from the people who do decide who gets into grad school or not. Definitely put a lot of effort into the GREs and study that first time, because one of the things that they said was that no matter how many times you take it after that, your score is gonna fluctuate maybe by 1 or 2 points. My friend actually I was talking to, she took GREs 3 or 4 times and her score stayed the same every single time. So it's really not worth it, because also if you're not familiar with the GREs, they take at least 5 hours to do. It's an exhausting, time-consuming thing to do. So you really want to study, put effort into it, get it over with, and give it all you've got for that one time, because it's not really going to be worth it to do it multiple times. So what did I get? So here on the screen, I'll show you what I got for my verbal reasoning. So I got a 142 in verbal reasoning, which is the English portion like I mentioned. And this was, I think, the hardest. My strong suit is actually writing and English as a subject, but this was beyond, I don't know, so hard to do. The vocabulary words were completely ones that I had no idea of, and I feel like I have a strong vocabulary, but no matter how many words I studied, none of them would come up. I mean, if you want to study vocabulary, that's up to you, but I studied vocabulary a lot, and I don't think it helped at all. It's kind of just learn how to guess and manipulate the exam. So I got a 142 in verbal reasoning, which is not the best, like I said, but I got in. For the quantitative reasoning, I got a 147. So that is just barely a 300 overall score. So I don't recommend taking GRE classes. I think that they're a waste of time and money. If you believe in them, go ahead and do them. Every single person I know that's done them, it barely helped them. They always say they're gonna increase your score by so many points. It's really not a guarantee, even if they say it's a guarantee. I personally knew that my weaker side was the math portion. I'm really good at math, but in terms of the GREs, they kind of try to trick you. So basically just learning how to, like I said, manipulate the test and really know what they're asking is a huge component of it, because sometimes the answer is right in the question, but you'll go through this long process of trying to solve it, and again, it wastes your time. So I would suggest finding a tutor that targets what your weaknesses and your areas of need to try and boost those for the exam. If you're trying to go into the same major as I am studying to be a speech language pathologist, and for this field they really focus on your writing. So you really want to look at what your field is focused on. If your field is really focused on math and sciences, you really want to try and boost that score, because they're gonna want to see that you're strong in the verbal reasoning, but they're gonna really look at your math score. Same thing, vice versa. For me, they really want to see strong writers, so they want to see your written skills. In terms of the writing score, it gets sent out and somebody grades it, so you can't really be in control of how good you did on the practice runs, but looking up those elements that they're looking for will really help your score. And I think that one of the main reasons I got into grad school, at least for speech language pathology, is my writing score. So my writing score, I got a 4.5, and the jump from a 4 to a 4.5 to a 5 in terms of writing score is huge. It's pretty significant. So the fact that I got a 4.5, I was really proud of, and I think is a huge indicator of why I got into grad school. So I really tried to look up the two kinds of essays that they're gonna give you. So yeah, so those were my GRE scores. Again, like, they're not the best, they're not the worst, but I gave it my all and I took it, and I just, you know, had some faith in myself, sent out the scores, and that was it. Okay, what else can you do to get into grad school? So I am a huge believer in extracurriculars, because my GPA was average. It was not a 4.0. I am gonna be completely raw and real with you guys. I did not have a 4.0. I worked my butt off in undergrad. Speech pathology as an undergraduate trying to get your bachelor's degree is really difficult. It's a hard major to go into, but it is so worthwhile once you've done it. So my overall GPA was like a 3.5, 3.6. My first semester in undergrad kind of tanked it because I had no idea what I was doing my freshman year, to be honest. I had no idea what college was, so that kind of is where my overall GPA affected a little bit. I really wanted to focus on my extracurriculars to support myself in not having a 4.0 GPA. For all of you who think you can't get into college itself or grad school with your GPA, focus on extracurriculars, volunteer at places, and do every sort of kind of thing that you can to really boost your resume, because they really want to look at your resume. So I was part of a community service and leadership program at my school. It was like a little club organization, I don't know what you call it. We would move in a weekend early before school in undergrad every year, and the whole weekend our whole group would do community service around the city and just really get to know each other and get involved. And I was able to put all of those things in my resume, and the people that I worked with and networked with really was there to support me once came time to apply to grad school. So I seriously highly recommend doing extracurriculars, whether that is playing sports, whether that is volunteering, however you serve the community, just stuff like that, and putting that all into fancy wording on your resume really does a lot. It says that you were able to balance school, you were able to balance extracurriculars, you're a good person, you know, you don't think of just yourself, and it's rewarding. So I definitely think that the amount of extracurriculars and volunteer work that I did helped me a lot in determining whether I got in or not. So if you're kind of worried about your academic side, really focus on that. My next piece of advice is to make relationships with your professors all the way through undergrad. At the end of the 4 years, you need 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, sometimes 4, to get into grad school. And so you don't want to burn the bridges with professors that, you know, you've had a rocky experience with, or that you don't really like, or the ones that you do like have left the university. You know, you just never know. It's really good to hold on and really build those relationships. Make sure you're wording your emails correctly, you know what I mean? Being really friendly and professional to all of your professors in undergrad, because then you have more people to choose from and who are willing to write you a letter of recommendation because you did spend a little bit more time with them and they're able to vouch for you. You want to make sure you did good in their class as well, and kind of talk about what your strengths are and let them get to know you a little bit so that they have something to write about when it comes time. I also recommend getting a few variations of recommendation letters, one from a professor in your major courses, one from your professor not in a major course, maybe your boss or your club organization leader, something like that. Just a kind of variety to show that you dipped your toe in a bunch of different places, and all of these people all have the consensus that you're a good candidate to be a graduate student. My next piece of advice is to show off your leadership skills. Obviously, this is not a trait that everyone has, but I think it is a huge part of why I got into graduate school. So my freshman year, I did a program called Jumpstart. It's a kind of similar to Head Start. We went into inner city preschools and tried to supplement their knowledge to prepare them for kindergarten, because they were kind of already behind and didn't always have the resources. So I ended up falling into a leadership role kind of on accident, but I took it on, took the challenge, and really went for it. And so I led a group of college students, taught them the curriculum to teach the preschool students. And so I highlighted that in my resume and really talked about my experience and how I took on that leadership role and what skills I learned from it, if that makes sense. Whatever kind of responsibility you've ever taken over in your life, write about that. Talk about it in your resume. Really taking charge and showing that you can stand strong on your own 2 feet is something they're definitely looking for. There's just skills that you learn from those experiences anyways that you can apply in the field. Also, as an extracurricular, get a job. If you don't have a job and you've been kind of being supported by your parents, that's amazing and that is so great, but it's time to branch out, get a job, and learn some of those skills that you do acquire from working with other people, from working with customers, and building interpersonal relationship skills that you're gonna have to apply in the field. Whatever job you're gonna go into, you're gonna have the people that are difficult, you're gonna have the people that are pushing your buttons, and it's all about how you're able to deal with those at the end of the day. I work at a restaurant, and I used the skills that I learned at the restaurant and applied it to how it would benefit me as a graduate student and why I'm a good candidate. And at the time, I was only working at a restaurant, like I said. So I took those, how can I spin all of these into skills? Because it's not lying. You really did build those skills. If you're a good server, that's a huge quality to show. To be able to multitask, to be able to work with people, your servers, to really build relationships with your customers, that's a huge interpersonal skill that is beneficial to you in the graduate world. So really just taking who you are outside of an academic person is really beneficial. And if you are the academic person that really sticks to their studies, really make sure they're on target with their GPA and their scores and everything like that, that is not a bad quality. That's awesome to do too. But don't get stuck on just academic side. Make sure you're supporting yourself in your image in terms of your extracurriculars and what else you're doing with your life, I guess. If you are going into the speech pathology field, I definitely recommend also, as a side note, being a part of NISHLA. It's like the organization for speech language pathology, and just really going to the NISHLA meetings and being a part of different clubs and organizations shows that you got involved during your time as an undergrad. They really want to see people that got involved and made relationships, and just network, guys. Network like crazy. Build relationships left and right. People that are going to support you, because it also is really kind of nice to have options for those letters of recommendations and not have to be stuck with the one professor or whatever, To be honest, I did not get into graduate school right away. I only applied to 2 schools, and I was on the waiting list for both schools. Luckily, I got in off of the waiting list. That just also goes to show you can do everything you can and maybe not get in. There's a ton of people every year that don't get in the first year that they apply. That's fine. Get a job in your field and build skills in that area, and then apply the next year. A lot of people do that. That's what I was gonna do if I didn't get in, honestly. So don't worry if you got onto the wait list either. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So if you were meant to take that year off, maybe you were, but take those skills again and apply them to your resume the next year. So I hope that these were helpful. I don't know about everyone else. This is just my personal experience, and what I have found really helps in terms of the speech pathology field and any field you're going into. Really build those interpersonal skills and just be confident in yourself. No matter what, everything you've done in undergrad, you should be proud of, because you did it. You graduated at the end of the day. So put that forward and just show them who you are. It really doesn't all depend on scores, guys. Just, they want to see that you're a well-rounded person, I guess. If this was helpful to you or you got anything out of this, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and join me. I post every single weekend, and I will see you guys in my next video.